Welcome to CHRTC 100 Online. My name is Mark Guevara and I will be your instructor for this course. I'm excited to journey with you through this course and I hope it will be a rich learning opportunity for you. On this video, I'll be going through the syllabus. I encourage you to watch it in its entirety as I offer some helpful hints. This course is entirely online, which means that we will not meet on site for any meetings or classes. You can contact me at my office at 780-459-6691. You'll hear it's for St. Albert Parish. You can ask for Mark and they will transfer you. My email address is listed right there. There are no prerequisites for this course. There is no course-based ethics that is needed for approval. There is not a community service learning component, and there are no additional mandatory instructional fees. Description and objectives of the course. CHRTC 100 is a study of the basic themes of the Christian Bible, namely creation and covenant, sin and evil, the biblical history of ancient Israel, the prophets and justice, the preaching, death, and resurrection of Jesus, redemption, the emergence of the church, and finally an application of the historical, critical method to the study of the entire Bible. There is one textbook for the course. The information is listed there. It is available as an e-textbook. If you simply search it online, you can find all of the information you need there. I would also encourage you to have one version of the Bible, preferably the New Revised Standard Version. This is the academic version of the Bible used in most universities. If you grew up with another version, the NIV or the NAB, you're most welcome to use that. However, I'll be referring to the NRSV. I've also provided you with a link to an online version of the NRSV. Regarding assessment and evaluation, there are 5 components listed there. 20% apiece for your test number 1 and test number 2, and then 15% of the final grade will come from your discussion question responses. 15% of your final grade will come from your ongoing participation in online discussions, and the final 30% of the final grade will come from your final exam. The first component is test number 1, which will be due at 11:55 p.m. on May the 15th. I ask that you email that to me. On May the 8th, I will give you email and post on the Moodle a review sheet. That review sheet will contain the requirements for test number 1. Test number 1 will cover chapters 1 to 5, and the format for it will be 2 short essay questions. The second component, test number 2, will be due at 11:55 p.m. on May the 29th. Again, I will expect that that will be emailed to me at that time. A review sheet will be emailed to you as well as posted on the board on May the 22nd, and that will contain requirements for the test number 2. Test number 2 will cover chapters 6 to 10. Its format is the same as test number 1, which will be 2 short essay questions. The third component are the discussion question responses. At the end of the semester, you'll actually be self-evaluating yourself on your responses. So throughout the course, you'll be given questions, discussion questions, which you'll be responding to. Discussion questions can be found on the e-class. Responses can be saved onto the document itself, and you'll be emailing all of those completed discussion questions at the end of the semester. Now, I would like it if at the beginning of the semester you could email me a few of your discussion question responses just so that I could see where you're at and let you know how you're doing in those responses. So at the end of the semester, what will happen is I will give you a self-assessment sheet. On it will be a rubric, and you'll give yourself a percentage mark based on that rubric and your discussion question responses. That self-assessment sheet, as well as the discussion question responses, are due no later than 11:55 on June the 5th. Now, even if it is a self-evaluation, I do have the final say as the instructor, and so I have the right to adjust your mark based on my own assessment. Though typically I'll usually go along with what students give themselves. The fourth component is your ongoing participation. Throughout the course, students will contribute responses to the discussion forums for each chapter. You can look at the rubric for assessing online discussions below, which will guide the quality of your responses. The rubric for assessing online discussions will also be on that self-assessment sheet, which I will give you on May the 29th. Students will give themselves a percentage mark using this rubric and based on your responses. And you'll submit that self-evaluation sheet no later than 11:55 p.m. on June the 5th. And just like your discussion question responses, I reserve the right to adjust your mark based on my own assessment. And then finally, we have the final exam, which will be due at 11:55 p.m. on June the 10th. On June the 5th, I will release a review sheet which will contain requirements for the final exam. The final exam is not cumulative per se. It will cover mainly chapters 11 to 15. However, you'll be using all the skills and methodologies that you will have developed from the beginning of the course. The format there, instead of 2 short essay questions, will be 3 questions. Sample exam questions will be provided upon request. The policy about course outlines can be found in section 23.4 of the university calendar. Academic integrity. The University of Alberta is committed to the highest standards of academic integrity and honesty. Students are expected to be familiar with these standards regarding academic honesty and to uphold the policies of the university in this respect. Students are particularly urged to familiarize themselves with the provisions of the Code of Student Behavior, which you can find online at the link there, and avoid any behavior that could potentially result in suspicions of cheating, plagiarism, misrepresentation of facts, and/or participation in an offense. Academic dishonesty is a serious offense and can result in suspension or expulsion from the university. I ask that you keep all of this in mind as you do your self-assessment and evaluation for the course. Regarding academic honesty, all students should consult the information provided by the Office of Judicial Affairs regarding avoiding cheating and plagiarism in particular and academic dishonesty in general. See the Academic Integrity Undergrad Handbook and information for students. If in doubt about what is permitted in class, ask me. An instructor or coordinator who is convinced that a student has handed in work that he or she could not possibly reproduce without outside assistance is obliged, out of consideration of fairness to another student, to report the case to the associate dean or the faculty. All the material in this course is to be used solely for personal study and may be used and distributed for other purposes, but only with consent from the instructor. If you have needs that could affect your performance in this class, please let me know during the first week of the term so that appropriate arrangements can be made. If you are not already registered with Specialized Support and Disability Services, please contact their office immediately, and their contact information is listed there. Policy for late submissions. Your syllabus lists all of the due dates and times. Late submissions will not be accepted except in cases of potentially excusable absences due to illness or domestic affliction. Please notify the instructor as soon as possible. The instructor and the student will agree on acceptable due date. If the date of the final exam needs to be deferred, please contact me immediately. Grading. The marks given for the 5 components of your evaluation and assessment will be your raw scores. Each of these raw scores will be converted into percentages. The weighted average for each of those components will be converted into the final grade. The marks for the 2 tests and the final exam are given in percentages according to the table below. Finally, students will be given a self-assessment sheet containing the rubric for assessing discussion question responses and the rubric for assessing online discussions on May the 29th. Students are to give themselves a mark for each of these 2 areas. Students must submit all the discussion question responses with the self-assessment sheet no later than 11:55 p.m. on June the 5th by email. Students must give themselves a mark. Failure to do so may result in a 0%. The instructor reserves the right to adjust the student's self-evaluation based on his own assessment. Here's the undergraduate or graduate grading scale. An A- to an A+ ranges between 80 to 100%. Here, I find strong evidence of original thinking, good organization, capacity to analyze and synthesize, a superior grasp of the subject matter with sound critical evaluations, and evidence of a strong and extensive knowledge base. The key words there for me are original thinking, organization, and critical evaluation. These are the main elements I'll be looking at when I read your tests. The other descriptors are listed clearly there. You might be interested to know that the average for this course is 86% for the final grade. Here's the rubric for assessing discussion question responses. To receive an exemplary, that is a high A or 90 to 100%, the student has to have completed all of the discussion questions. The student should demonstrate strong evidence of original and critical thinking. The student should have a capacity to analyze and synthesize, as well as show an evidence of an extensive knowledge base. Here's the rubric for assessing online discussions. To receive an exemplary, that is 90 to 100%, you must have at least 5 postings, not including your own, well distributed throughout the week. Regarding responsiveness to discussion and your demonstration of knowledge gained from assigned reading, it must be demonstrated that you have a clear understanding of the readings and that you incorporate them into your responses. Finally, an exemplary shows consistent and excellent adherence to the ethical principles and rules. For more on that, read again the academic integrity paragraph above, as well as learning and working, and finally the sections below outlining rules for online discussions. Here are some important rules for online discussions. Number 1, participate. This is a shared learning environment. There's no lurking in the cyberspace background. It's not enough to log in and read the discussion thread of others. For the maximum benefit to all, everyone must contribute. Second, report any glitches that you might have. Discussion forums are electronic, and so they are faulty. If for any reason you experience difficulty participating, please call or email me immediately. Chances are others will be having the same problem. Next, help others. You may have more experience with online discussions than other people in the class, so give them a hand. Show them it's not so hard. Be patient. Read everything in the discussion thread before replying. This will help you avoid repeating something someone else has already contributed. Acknowledge the points made with which you agree and suggest alternatives for those with which you don't. Be brief. You want to be clear and to articulate your point without being preachy or pompous. Be direct, stay on the point. Don't lose yourself or your readers in overly wordy sentences and paragraphs. Use proper writing style. This is a must. Write as if you were writing a term paper. Correct spelling, grammatical construction, and sentence structure are expected in every other writing activity associated with scholarship and academic engagement. Online discussions are no different. Next, cite your sources. If you do, use them. Please use proper attribution. Next, please refrain from emoticons and using texting shortcuts. Next, respect diversity. It's an ethnically rich and diverse multicultural world in which we live. Use no language that is or that could be construed to be offensive towards others. Racist, sexist, and heterosexist comments and jokes are unacceptable, as are derogatory and/or sarcastic comments and jokes directed at religious beliefs, disabilities, and age. Please note that this point cannot be overstated. Since this is a course on the Bible, and since on the one hand the Bible is a central document to many people's faith, and on the other can evoke much difficulty for some, we must be especially respectful. Personal attacks, threats, or inappropriate comments will not be tolerated and are subject to potential disciplinary action. Number 10, no yelling. So please refrain from using only uppercase letters when posting online. Number 11, no flaming. This means that criticism must be constructive, well-meaning, and well-articulated. Please, no tantrums. Rants directed at any other contributor are simply unacceptable and will not be tolerated. The same goes for profanity. The academic environment expects higher order language. Finally, you can't unring the bell. Language is your only tool in an online environment. Be mindful. How others perceive you will be largely, as always, up to you. Once you've hit the send button, you've rung the bell. Review your written posts and responses to ensure that you've conveyed exactly what you intended. This is an excellent opportunity to practice your proofreading, revision, and writing skills. Here's a hint. Read your posts out loud before hitting the send button. This will tell you a lot about whether your grammar and sentence structure are correct, your tone is appropriate, and your contribution clear or not. Finally, your course outline. On the left-hand column, we have the schedule. In the middle column, the topics that will be covered, as well as important dates. Please take note of all the due dates and times, as late submissions will not be accepted. In the third column, you have listed the corresponding required reading. Please do your best in keeping up with the reading. If you have any questions regarding the syllabus, please don't hesitate to contact me by email or on my office line.